lot of early game battles. Drop spots even being changed. Mount Olympus has been looking incredibly popular from the previous match. Grimgate, not so much until later in the game. Malibu and Merstash have kind of claimed that from the first victory royales to start out the day. Will that trend continue, though, is the big question here.
Yeah, I think this game will play out one of two ways. It's going to be very fast-paced, a lot of fast action, or very, very slow, where players don't really want to make that big move just yet. It's Thomas Queasy. Double contested this time around. Not that same triple contest like we've seen before. There's a team on the outskirts trying to steal away some of that loot, but that's really it at most. So a little bit of a eased off pressure from the start of that last game.
Nice job getting a Flowberry Fizz right off the start. Gonna be great for getting a good amount of HP and even fighting early if it's what they want to do. But Chicho has gone down. 2 elims starting off in the restored reels.
That's just unfortunate.
Yeah.
0 points in 3 games. Turtlex and Chicho going down there just means they have to go again in the lower bracket side of things, where it's almost harder. Top 15 instead of the top 25 for Turtlex and Chicho. But hopefully they use this downtime, you know, going down early. Use it as a little bit of blessing. Go back to the drawing board. Watch those replays. Study the teams that were in the lower bracket. Figure out who's landing in and around your POIs. That way you have a much better chance.
Put aside and Snazy. Great job of being efficient here in the early game to get their loot quickly, get their mats, and without as many people contesting them here in fencing fields, they really just want to do anything they can to stay up. I think the prediction is around 65 points is going to be the cutoff for top 25. You can see currently they are in 20th, so they're kind of on the borderline here, but they don't need too many points, so all they really need to do is make it past those initial storm surges and get to the start of the end game.
Just a lot of players just getting dropped out right out of the gate. Asa and Marco lose the fight over here towards Pleasant Plaza. Zangi and his duo, they were looking really, really aggressive, kind of start off that last game, but sometimes that same aggression that is going your way may not necessarily work from one game to the next. It was kind of their downfall in game 2. But it's been their success here early on in this third and final game. Turtlex and Sato, same thing to be said for them. Started off with a 2nd place, and they're ready to start off here with a nice battle. Defend the drop, because they got to imagine their spot in that upper bracket, or the grand finals even, is secured. Thunderbolt of Zeus knocking them down. Trying to get this revive on out, and I do believe that team was eliminated?
I believe so. They have to be careful, though, because now looks like another duo has been invited to the party. Or are they coming in uninvited? As now Waterbending Mythic getting put to good use here, and it looks like it's going to be all on aggression.
Yeah, they know this fight started, and now they're ready to kind of finish it, even though it was 2 duos when they started moving over in this direction. Battle for piece control is going to begin. Turtlex and Sato creating space at the bottom of this house. There's only so much space you can actually take down there, though. So Turtlex and Sato are going to start having to think plan B, have some trick underneath their sleeve, figure out what they're going to do, and immediately you see Sato taking some distance as soon as he hears his opponents trying to disengage and run away.
Shots continue to be fired, but looks like the hard aggression has been slowed down a little bit here. Top end of the leaderboard. Sato in 3rd place right now, so, you know, they've already basically guaranteed their spot in the grand finals, so they're incredibly comfortable here, and they can practice whatever they want to now, whether it be these early game engagements or something else. Pixie, though, and his duo partner Juan here are also in an interesting engagement.
Yeah, Pixie and I think they have about 20 points so far. Not necessarily going their way today, but they still have this last game. They can definitely make up 40, 50 points for the top position, sprinkle some eliminations, but they still have to go through this team first. Almost on the outskirts, but in comes the Chain of Hades again. Awaba taking so much damage. Juan just going down. The Chain of Hades is just too much that even when it looks like things are going right for you, it just takes 1 second kind of tosses you all around, leaving Pixie now by himself, but he's continuing to stay on the offensive. He has the med kits, he has the heals, just in case this comes a little prolonged, but so do they on the other side with some splashes being used, the piece control going over. Great shot by Pixie, and he's going to be persistent on this fight, knowing he has a full HP advantage.
Literally thrown all over the place with that chain, so you know that Pixie does not want to stay put inside of a box here. It's just going to open up the opportunity to do the exact same strategy. And Spin's deciding, is that the play I want to make here? But it's not even going to be needed, as it looks like the knock comes through. Still the 2v1. And they're going to choose to pop a med kit and take their time here.
I believe with that elimination, they were able to kind of find the med kits, not have to continue using their splashes. Pixie has a chance. He does have that legendary banana that was popped that's keeping him alive, but you can see it kind of running out of juice. Stuck now just to the med kits, trying to get the reboot card, trying to get a lot of the loot that was left behind, but you can see his opponents are really not giving up just yet. They don't want to disengage and move on unless they're the only people moving on from this fight.
The more time to take, the harder it's going to be later on. When they're up just against a solo, sometimes it's not even worth it to finish off the fight. Sometimes the better play might just be to get the zone, but now Pixie, full beast almost, cracking down his opponent, just one shot away from the elim, as he's also been cracked, has 3 medkits, has 4 minis, can recuperate what he's lost, but the more time he takes, the more time he's gonna give his opponents to heal right back up, and the delay continues.
Yeah, I'm not sure what they have heals-wise on the other side, so their time is running out and staying and trying to be proactive in this fight just as much as Pixie is, but Pixie's going to try to go the other direction. We know that he already has the reboot card, so probably could be looking to travel back towards his original drop, or that area at the very minimum, try to get the reboot and have that strength and numbers back on up.
Take a quick look at what happened towards the Grim Gate. Murstache, Malabuka. They got a quick clean up on Vox. Oh. But Malabuka did get knocked there. And I believe, yeah, the third party came through. So Malabuka and Murstache are out of the third game here, but they're also in the grand finals with the amount of points they have. So not the worst way to close out day 3.
They have the rest of the day to themselves. Grab an early dinner. Watch the rest of the Fortnite games. Just sit back, relax, formulate a strategy. Because they're going up against some other players from Grim Gates as well. Even ones that are on the outskirts with Fredoxy and Trippin.
Paper on NA when he qualified after winning his match. So I'm going to go play basketball now. Time to relax a little bit. Time to play some ball, but you got to qualify first before you can make those decisions. Rick Bohr. They are literally on the edge of the map here, but good news is I believe they have been able to get a good amount of damage. 77 players up. A lot more aggression in this final match of the day.
Yeah, not only they kind of have the ability to disengage, the back is against the full island. The zone is in their favor, so they're not going to take too much damage no matter how long they take. As we move on over towards fencing field, you see a couple teams positioned in this area already. They know the zone is moving here. Or at least you see the southern edge is Podesai Snazy. 48 points. They're inside of that bubble, but they haven't reached the estimate just yet. So kind of see a calm, cool, collected game plan as you see the zone moving forward northwest away from fencing field, but still not too much distance away from where Podesai and Snazy are currently at.
Yeah, just continuing to look for those tags. You see top 25 is 38 points, but with the prediction, it's going to go up all the way to 65. So you know these players aren't completely comfortable yet. Srapped. And his duo still inside of the zone here. They did pick up an elimination, so they're not really in shambles at all, to be fair. They're just focusing more on that rotation, making sure they're healthy in terms of materials and they don't get caught off guard by some duos that do need damage. So playing a lot safer here.
And we've seen a lot of teams throughout the weekend kind of stagger themselves so far back in zone, which works out in some cases. If while this is going on, you're able to get surges, they hear the reboot, and immediately his ears go up. moves in that direction. But if you're not able to get the surge and you stayed so far in zone, depleting a lot of your resources, that's when things become a nightmare. And we kind of seen both of those things this weekend through Queasy and Thomas's game plan. When they're ahead, they're looking good. When they're behind, suffering to surge, forced to use a lot of their resources just to make it to zone while still being down on surge, that's when things become a little bit more of an avalanche in terms of your problems escalating one after another.
All right, Thomas, Queasy, we need to have a talk. You know, the jokes, it's getting fun here, but it's time to qualify, you know? Okay, it was day 1, day 2 semis. They made it to uppers, but this is a duo from second place in grand finals in the previous major to now struggling to qualify in day 3 on the borderline of uppers. I'd love to see something happen. Cringe Noms, though. A duo that's been performing very well here, getting close to being in qualifying range. 72 points. They just want to get a little bit of points here to make sure they can hold on to their current position.
Yeah. If the estimate is in, they're safe, but you don't want to kind of leave it to the judges after the fight is over. There's Destru, Doom, Icy, Pyros, all the way from Mount Olympus. Still fighting toe-to-toe, but a third party out of nowhere. Pings comes in. Ice was able to get 2 for him and Doom, but now they're still stuck in just a tough spot. Luckily for them, they're able to get half of that loot, not the entirety of it. And with these two teams still here having to rotate, Snazy and Podesai still over towards Fencing Fields. They have to rotate to them. And if you look at the minimap, Snazy and Podesai hear all this noise. They're looking in that direction, so they want to make sure it's not an easy rotation for either one of those two duos.
I feel like we've been more time inside of the zone than not. Like, we've seen more battles outside of zone here than we have players already inside in a comfortable position during the whole day 3 of semifinals here. It just shows how difficult it can be to get that damage and how staggered a lot of these duos actually get. And even the ones who aren't forced to be staggered, they're waiting on the edge for the duos that have to eventually rotate back in, which is exactly what Snazy and Podesai are doing here. Just taking shots back at them before even starting the rotation to get in. Good news is, with medkits in hand, earlier zones too, it's only taking 1, so they've got time.
Yeah, and the chances, since they're at fencing, a lot of flow berries that they can grab, use those quickly, not necessarily for the shields, but for the effect to cover ground. As you jump on board, game 2 victors, Blaha and Comeback. Comeback perfectly played with that right-hand advantage, taking down both of his opponents in that end game, clutching up big. And you see their position right now, not too bad. The only thing they really lack is that metal material, but they're on the southern port of the zone. They have a free rotation inward, and they can either take the mountain or dip their toes into those dashes. Either one of those would be a huge success for them. With nothing on the horizon in terms of enemies, you can kind of see they're just waiting for that perfect rotation.
A trend here for Thomas HD and Queasy. Once again, combining those flow berries with a launch pad on the edge of the map here. It's a safer way to make it into the position you want without getting into too much trouble of duos that have yet to get their way in. Issue is, you want to make sure you've done enough damage when you're doing these rotations. So actually being contested at Mount Olympus isn't too bad for Thomas HD and Queasy, because they can get a lot of that damage early on and then have more time to focus on this kind of safer rotation that they like to do.
Yeah, they're going to forage a lot of the fruits and vegetables as well, because you can already see on Thomas alone, there's no HP, no med kits, no bananas, no floppers. So it is going to be a must. That way, even if Queasy does have some of his own, you want to utilize those when you make it out of the zone instead of just trying to survive. And you see they're making their way up to the next launch pad. Probably do the combination of the Flowberry Fizz with that launch pad to finally make it into the zone.
Ju and Robin here on the Rift Island. Looks like they were the ones that were able to capture the flag and get a bit of loot. Or were they? As the other duo wants a piece of the pie.
Since I see no eliminations on Ju and Robin, they really don't have any points from those first 2 games, just like some of the other competitors in this game. So they're either guaranteed to go to the lower bracket, or they put themselves in almost that win and you're in situation to the grand finals, to where that win is worth 65 points. Almost to that threshold in which we're talking about. Sprinkling a few eliminations should be good, and making it sound easier than it actually is. I think this weekend proved getting a win is not the easiest thing in the world. In fact, it's probably one of the hardest.
Uh-oh, Blaha has been left alone as Combeck has been knocked down. Lens, though, as well on the ground. Third party's in here. Oh, misses the shot. Unable to connect. Did stop the revive, though, as now the player has been boxed up. Gonna get the finish, recuperate the loot now. This is danger for the two solos.
It's almost like a rematch as well. Blaha, Combeck, Goba, and Kelba. And immediately, they don't like that position. They were one of the first persons there. Immediately use those dashes to reposition on the outskirts. You can see them slowly but surely trying to move themselves further and further into the zone. And because more than half of the zone is in open water, the teams are going to be so congested at the edge of the zone. So the further Blaha and Combeck make it, the better off they'll be in this zone, even the next.
There's a lot of duos that already have that in mind, though. You can see them rotating through. Moppy, though, being one that's trying to stop it as he gets the crack now. Full pieced, unable to continue the connections, though, as now his opponent tries to get away from this situation, but it's a scary one to be in, as it looks like a call has been made from Kiro. Instant disengage from Moppy, regrouping with his duo partner.
Yeah, probably not necessarily worth it for them with how well they have been playing. There we have a couple eliminations so far. And this is how they added one more to that tally. Reese was just getting pressured, just a sliver of HP. He's trying to defend himself with the Thunderburst. You know as well as I do. A couple of those shots always bleed through those builds and land. And if you're low HP like that, that'll be the end of you.
Army trying to take shots here at the players now that have used the launch pad or rifted in to the zone. It's a good opportunity to look back now and try and take shots at all the duos gliding on in, but looks like they're going to take their time here. There it is now, choosing to be, I believe, the last duo, basically. There's one more below them that hasn't rotated yet.
They do have the luxury to wait, especially since very few teams are even still there. I think one more might be on the edge of Rift Island. Flowberry Fizz, Launchpad, and by the time they make it to the zone, exactly this will happen. The next one will appear, and now they have a chance to get full positioning. They either go in zone, land, try to heal up while it opens up, or they can go on the edge and quickly step their way deeper in the zone once it does start to open up in about 45 seconds. But Voltiac, Psycho Cool, 36 above the damage threshold, which isn't much, and that's why you see them looking for this down onto Pixie. They find his teammate on the other side. They have to be careful not to take too much damage, because right now it's a little bit too big of a risk with their on the leaderboard. 30 points so far. 9 more teams need to go down, and then placement points will start to come in.
A good 35 points would put them just on the edge, potentially. But this is the damage they need if they get that elimination now. Healthy instead in terms of damage, but not HP, as the med kit is going to come through. And hopefully they got a bit of time to breathe here and recuperate that shield.
Yeah, I saw Pixie and Wax go down, and because they're out on the leaderboard, they're going to be forced to go one more time, 3 more games in the lower bracket. It's a very, very different situation. It's all about consistency in a short amount of time. So slipping up in these first 2 games really puts a lot of pressure to make this last and final game worth it. Snazy and Podesai, though, instead of slipping up far down the mountain, it was just a few steps down as they continue to climb their way back up. 658 above the damage threshold. They've done so well in this game to position themselves almost every single zone. They're in the center of this one. They don't have to worry about rotation. They don't even have to peek if they don't want to.
You can see when we're in a position like the areas of the map that have the river of sticks, that water that grants you those dashes, it's a lot more spread out in terms of where these duos are boxed up. They have more flexibility with those dashes where they can kind of position themselves more where they want to. So it's not like there's a bunch of duos necessarily congested on one edge of the zone, which has its pros and cons depending on how your match plays out. But it looks like it's going to be a west pull, a water zone almost. And Thomas HD and Queasy are going to be one of the duos that actually pulled it.
That's the base case scenario, because remember what I was saying to start the day, in the games that they got zone, didn't have to travel far, they did well. This is like a 50-50. They had to travel a good distance to get to where they are now, but in these late game, getting the zones where they are almost means just as much as those early games. You see Turtle, Cheapzx, they have that underworld loot along with the Mythic Harbinger SMG, so losing shields wouldn't be too bad as long as they can find the eliminations to make up for it with the Siphon. And Mappy's just getting more and more confident, getting more and more aggressive. He's ready to take the challenge upward. But Cheapzx is doing a good job of fighting back, keeping Mappy positioned down below, and not really giving him the opening that he's looking for.
They've got 4 elims on the board. They've done a good amount of damage. They want to scavenge a bit more loot here, though. Moppy did disengage from the chase previously, but now he has been put in a situation where he has to play the rest of the match out alone. And with Turtle and Cheap close by, they're looking pretty hungry.
Not too far of a rotation for them, but don't really have too many chances to dip their toes in the water until they're on the other side in the zone. 273 buffs gonna make the rotation easier than some that they're facing so far. And as soon as they find themselves an edge that they're comfortable with, they immediately box up in those hard mats. Make sure it's not easy to get stuck up on. Looking in the distance, they find out Finn, they found out Kenty, all the way over from Grim Gates. Still haven't had their big moment just yet, but it's waiting around any one of these corners if they could play their cards right.
Next zone will be appearing shortly here. We'll be able to see what type of rotation has to be made. Just 8 more seconds. Jacob, north, south, west, east. What are you calling?
It's gonna be south.
South?
Yeah, maybe an east, but it's not west.
Let's say north.
Oh, okay. 1-0 Takata. 1-0 Takata. You see the medallion getting changed hands in the mini-map, just making sure that they have their dashes ready to go for this next rotation. You can kind of see the lay of the land. The majority of the people are already congested on the right side of where the current safe zone actually is, and a lot of them are going to be forced to rotate parallel to one another if they want to avoid traveling through open water.
It's going to be tough here. Good news is you are granted those dashes, but the issue is so is everybody else this close to the water, so you can see a lot of players actually starting to almost go down here, losing a lot of shield, losing a lot of HP before the rotations have even begun. Although duos like Thomas HD, Queasy trying to capitalize on the rotations that a lot of these players have to make from the south to get those tags and do a bit of damage. The Buell being one of the solos that could be put into trouble here.
He just gets tagged up. Just as soon as he was starting to feel confident to continue to dash in the zone, now he falls 6 below the damage threshold, which isn't much, especially if he does a Flowberry Fizz with his dashes. He can kind of fly through the sky and try to land some cheeky shots as he makes his way forward, but he's still spotted out by a team with elevation, quickly dashing his way to safety. Great moving by him. While all this is going down, he moved a little bit further below the threshold. Still not in zone. Still has so much work to do.
Still a nice pause, though. He has recuperated a lot of the HP he did lose, so now great way to go all the way around the edge. Even though he's tanking a bit of storm, he has yet to be hit from these shots. Now has made it into zone and even almost pulled towards him. So with the amount of materials he has, he should be able to stay up longer.
Daisy and Podesai moving up those leaderboards, but Podesai gets found out. Literally dropped to just looks like 1 HP in a dream here. And Stazy's in a spot with no builds. He can't be the hero for his teammate. It's just 2 solos running around here in this end game. As CZR gets founded out, Stacy trying to go for a quick elimination. A couple of missed shots going to cost him not only that, but the damage on the HP as well until he finally gets dropped on out. It's all up to Podesai. He's trying to get himself inside of that bubble. 66 points. He needs the elimination. 2 more points. He reached 70 before going down, Takata.
That might be enough. We thought it was 65. That Elin put him at 70. He's on the borderline, but it could be enough for Debule, though. Also on the borderline at 66 points. 1 elimination could be all it takes. 116 below, though. Just a couple ticks away of getting eliminated. Debule has to make something happen.
Yeah, he has a chance to even pass Podesai and Snazy and drop him back down a spot on that leaderboard, but 161 damage. Storm Surge about to turn on momentarily. Debule doesn't really have any heals to out-heal it if it comes down to it. He's just trying to go through unnoticed and even unscathed. Just 1 more player needs to drop before he's no longer a worry to Storm Surge.
That could be it. He gets the knock. All he has to do is finish it. Gets the finish. 74 points, goes down. Might have done it. As Cherry, Giraz up above, holding height.
He even passed up Snazy and Podesai along the way. 34 points for Giraz and Chari. It's almost a win in your in scenario. Take a trip around memory lane, back to day number 1 and day number 2, but they're ready to learn from their mistakes. They're ready to change things up and come out on top, but so are Queasy and Thomas. Big situations for a lot of players, and this is the moment to make your presence known.
94 points. You know they won it. They've been battling throughout these semifinals, and you said it yourself. I thought the winner you're in format was done for in the first 2 days of the semis. But Gyros Cherry, they need to win this match.
And they're still holding on, but they don't have builds. If anybody challenged them for that high ground, it's going to be out the window as they find another elimination. Still trying to bring their point total up as Queasy gets lost along the way. 98 points for him and Thomas. They've done more than enough to get into the grand finals. They're still trying to make this game matter. Still trying to get that little bit of extra practice. Legendary Banana Pop. No builds left to his name, though. Can't really defend himself, and that's why he has such a focus on the backside of the zone.
Gyros now has been cracked, forced to pop the chug splashes, has 2 medkits, could even tank a bit of his own. 68 points now, just above the cutoff, but his duo partner is left with just 7 builds now. A duo in front of him. He gets the elimination. Carmi goes down. That is massive.
That is huge. That's their 7 total of the game. He's trying to get inside of that bubble. He's not trying to take a chance. He's just trying to solidify his spot as he dashes once more to the front side of the zone. Everybody in this game is solos except for one team. As they find another one, they're trying to break through. Thomas gets another elimination onto Finn, but Zone is now creeping forward, moving in, but he finds the coin. He finds the dashes at the perfect moment.
But he's just 1 tick away from getting eliminated. Shari is going to be the one that finishes him off, but he goes down as well. The team from above, they take the VR.
That was Cheapzx and his duo Turtle take the game. They stole it away. They went through this endgame almost unnoticed every step of the way, but that's sometimes the plan. Go through unnoticed, steal away that moment when it matters.
They got the job done, like you said. From the VR, they should have more than enough points now to make it to the grand finals. You can see they had 80 points here already in the mid game. Cleaning it up, though, finishing with the VR, that's a good way to boost your confidence.
Yeah, we had an idea, an estimate of what that threshold was going to be for that grand final spot. But we saw 3, we saw 4, we saw maybe even 5 teams all break that threshold throughout that end game Setsukata. Just like the Major 1 finals, I have no idea who qualified and who didn't.
I don't either, but there are 3 people that can help us with that information. Frankie, Levin, Mini, what's the leaderboard looking like?